attention.
Yeah, lovely. Perfect. Here, water?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Chloe. And can I just say, I don't think we've ever had such a good turnout, and Chloe's the one behind all of this. She identified all of the organizations. She put together a beautiful panel, and I just can't wait for you all to see it. So right now, I'm going to invite Erin Anderson up to deliver a land acknowledgement. And I have to say, we have traveled across Canada, across Turtle Island, and I think learning about the Indigenous nations whose lands we're on throughout this tour has been so important. So Erin, all yours. Perfect. I'm just going to spotlight this to make sure everyone can see your face. And you're going to do great. And yeah.
Do you have a slide?
This is the slide I fear.
Oh, no.
Did you need something?
I sent a slide. It's like an image.
So sorry. Oh wait, yeah, can you get the next one, please? Yeah. Sorry to scare you there. And if you're comfortable to remove your mask for lip reading, that's welcome.
Okay.
And just make sure you're eating that mic, and we can see your face right here.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect, there you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Anderson, and I am a white female. I'm not very tall. I have long, dark blonde, brown hair, green eyes, and I'm wearing glasses and an orange shirt today. I'm a PhD student at the University of Toronto at OISE, and I'm also chair of the Students for Barrier-Free Access Board of Directors. I'm honored to be gathered in community with all of you here today to learn and unlearn, to reflect, to dismantle, to celebrate. We are gathered on the traditional lands of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit, home to Indigenous peoples since time immemorial, but for settlers like myself, merely a handful of generations. Growing up in Canada, it wasn't until I was an adult, only 10 years ago, that I first heard about the residential school legacy. It wasn't taught to me in school. I consider it my ongoing work to learn about the history of the lands and peoples with whom my path intersects and beyond. And I would urge you as well to take on the difficult but rewarding work of learning about the lands you live and work on. I share this image by Dr. Lisa Boivin, Dene artist and scholar in U of T's Temerity Faculty of Medicine. SBA was lucky enough to take part in a disability justice training workshop with Lisa this past spring, where she fed us with a delicious spread as well as her stories, and where we sat around collaging and engaging in discussions about how disability is often intertwined with colonialism. Medicalization of disability, particularly for Indigenous people, the notion that disabled folks require treatment or fixing without ever stopping to consider the systemic barriers in place.
Sorry, Erin, just slow down a bit, but you're doing phenomenal.
Contributes to the ongoing colonial violence that exists today. As Lisa's art so poignantly captures, predetermined attitudes about people's abilities and needs, whether in medicine or education, reduces human beings to their perceived value based on a narrow set of criteria. Kirkness and Barnhart parse out the tension between coming to university and going to university. Institutions see students as coming to university to gain something, whereas students must give up something, culture, privacy, dignity, in order to go to university and be successful by the institution's standards. Kirkness and Barnhart advocate for those who work with Indigenous students to approach their work using the 4 Rs: respect, relevance, reciprocity, and responsibility. It is with this approach in mind that I invite you to engage today. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you so much for that, Erin. And Aaliyah, if you could turn your camera on. Perfect, we'll get you set up again. I have to say, I love the image being shared. I think the way we choose to tell our stories through art can be so powerful. So thank you so much for including that, to the knowledge keeper that shared that with you in the first place. All right, just gonna get this set up. Can you just talk into it just to test?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hello. Is is okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Erin. No. Sorry. Okay. My name is Chloe, and my pronoun are she and they. I identify as a white queer gender. As a visual description, I am a white female passing individual sitting in a motorized wheelchair. I am wearing a grey pants and a grey top and a black top. My hair so is tied in a bun, and I am short by my white standard photo journey. Take a look again to Erin for acknowledging the land wherein this needs status physical to solve is taking place. It is key to note that the need
You're good.
that the need national office is located on the unceded Algonquin territory, and that the need team is located towards the door. I currently reside on the traditional territory of the Anti-Montreal, Anishinaabe, and Mississauga people to the unceded territory of the Algonquin people will forever be my own, and where I'm first learned from indigenous community. I can be. I thought the hospital and needs literature. I am continuously learning about the intersections that exist between disability and indigeneity, and ultimately our society more similarly the intersectional dimension. Through my work, I commit myself to unlearn knowledge embedded in ableism and colonialism, and recognize the systems of oppression that remain at the forefront of education. I love to improve my own learning of the world I readily benefit from. Next slide, okay. Yeah. I'm very mindful of time, so we took a very brief presentation of needs, but if you have any questions afterwards, do not hesitate to come find us. So, the national Educational Association of Disabled Students is a body for cross-disability across Canada. Charitable organization supported for access to education and employment for disabled post-secondary students and graduates. Network August is three strategic areas of the reduction experience in class and academic as well as employment. By doing so, we offer a variety of events, resource people, as well as other things for disabled students and graduates nationwide. Nationwide. Okay. Let me take a moment to introduce my colleague who I have the pleasure of working with. If it is physical space, I am joined by colleagues of communication and first director Gada of financial assistance program director and manager of the race as well as Elia, our website manager. Online we have Alan, our technology IT support consultant, and Frank, our national coordinator. Next slide, please. Okay. We have 4 websites. Again, we're happy to provide more info after.
I got you.
We have 3 ongoing and major projects. We have 50 implement pathways project. Any questions can be directed together. Next slide, please. We have a wonderful financial assistance program managed by Gada. Next slide. And finally, we have a virtual access for a project. This project is why we are gathered here together today. It is important to note that this is a tool project which is additional to its passion for employment and social development. Canada support for student learning program, and we are very grateful for that funding. through that project, we offer webinars, we create quarterly reports that are located on our website, as well as we tour Canada nationwide. Okay. Thank you. Since first of 2022, NEADS has restoring the country to engage with disabled students, disabled community members, faculty members, and allies. We have visited 9 museums from together campuses thus far, and we are planning to visit 3 more campuses before the end of this project. We attempt to foster accessibility and inclusivity at each of our events, which is why this to start its outbreak. Okay. For the Toronto Meetup, we aim to capture the vibrant citizen of disability activism, culture, and knowledge production located in Toronto. And I believe this meetup is a testament to the brilliance of disabled folks throughout the city. This afternoon's conversation stems from an overarching theme of activism that be rooted within the community, within academia, or interweaving the doing both. That again. We are like by community organizations that are located throughout the room. Please go engage with them. There some of our partners who do really key work within the movement. I recognize this is break time, so we will take a 10-minute break and come back. Thank you.
Incredible. Yeah. All right, this is the part where I start begging you to eat the packed lunches. Please eat them. And then it just gets more desperate as the event progresses, so please be proactive, okay? You agree? Yeah. I'm not seeing enough yeses. I'm making direct eye contact. Okay, lovely. Y'all did so good. I think we ended up with a good system. Just a quick word to our friends on Zoom. Please don't send you. Imagine I'm like, welcome to the roast. I'm kidding. I don't know you guys. You seem great. Next slide, please. Oh, is there like text to this? Oh, yes, there is. Are we good to go? Or do you want to introduce? Oh, if you like a script, I'll read that. Oh, I get a script? That's so much better. I was just going to make stuff up. I was worried about you guys. I'm going to say some weird things, and it's going to be great. May I just steal your...
No.
Oh, that's so low. That's A-okay. Sometimes it be like that. How are the cookies? I heard good things about the cookies. Right?
Very generous to do too.
You guys got 2 cookies? I haven't opened... Guys, this is all new information to me. I've not opened the cookies yet. You get 2? In this economy?
Crisp veggies.
Oh my God. Diane knows exactly what I want in a cookie, personally speaking. And that brings me a lot of joy. All right. I'm just going to pull up the media release with the bios. Would that be?
Yeah, that was...
Incredible. Tip your bartender. I don't know why I said that. I'm not. I have my Smart Serve. Anyone else? Smart Serve certified. We got 1 person that's smart. 2, 3. Let's go. Okay, lovely. Pulling up the bios as we speak. All right, last call to leave. I'm kidding. Don't leave, please. All right, and you can see me okay enough online. Fair enough. I'm sure I'm there somewhere. What a beautiful media release crafted by Chloe. All right, so just going in the order of the media release, and I won't talk too fast, so help me God. First up, we have Dr. Eliza Chandler. Give a wave, say hello. Incredible. Dr. Eliza Chandler is an associate professor in the School of Disability Studies at Toronto Metropolitan University, and they've led a research program that animates disability arts and its connections to disability rights and justice. Oh my God, that's so cool. The research interest came into focus when, from 2014 to 2016, she was the artistic director of Tangled Art and Disability. Give it up. Oh yeah. An organization in Toronto dedicated to showcasing disability arts and advancing accessible curatorial practice. In the interest of time, am I okay to not read the full thing? It's a good bio. Basically, in my job, I'm the one that has to deal with your headshots and bios once you send it to NEADS, so I'm quite familiar with your bios, and they're all quite lovely. Next up, we've got Dr. Esther Ignagni from TMU School of Disability Studies. Give it up. Hello, how you doing? So Esther draws on lived work and academic experiences of disability to inform her position as an associate professor in TMU School of Disability Studies, where she's been teaching undergrads for the last 20 years. That's pretty sick. I wish I was your undergrad. Let's be honest. Most recently, she's held a number of university leadership roles, including the director of the School of Disability Studies and as the interim director of the School of Social Work. Incredible. You must be very busy. Thank you for making the time. Yeah, another round. Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Tanya Tichkovsky, University of Toronto Professor of Disability Studies. Hello, doctor. So many doctors. Awesome. So Dr. Tanya is a professor of disability studies in the Department of Social Justice Education at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, U of T. Very nice. I think we're in U of T, right? I'm not sure. We are. We are physically at U of T. Give it up for U of T. Yeah. She's recognized globally for her leading work in the field of disability studies and social justice, all of which is influenced by her experiences of dyslexia. Incredible. Next up, we have Colleen Stevenson, who is a PhD student in higher education at OISE at the University of Toronto, and she identifies as neurodivergent. Her research focuses on student affairs, institutional change, and EDI in higher education, and her doctoral research analyzes university EDI initiatives. What's your favorite? I'm kidding, that's for later. That's for later. We won't catch you on the hot mic with it. What's your least favorite? I'm kidding, who let me do this? Next up, we have Dr. Jessica Voerstermans from York University. She's an associate professor in the Faculty of Health As a white woman settler, scholar, living, working, and caring in what is now known as Toronto on Treaty 13 lands, she works to enact equity as a set of social relations, equity as relational, in all states of her work. Pretty cool. Next up online, let's see if Kate Welsh is online. Is Kate Welsh in the building? This is why they don't let me.
I am here, yeah.
Hello, welcome, Kate Welsh. I'm going to spotlight you so I don't lose you. We're so
Okay.
happy to have you here. Thank you for making the time. All
Yeah.
right, Kate Welsh from the Center for Independent Living in Toronto. Kate is a queer disabled artist, community activist, and educator, currently working at the Center for Independent Living in Toronto as the ID plus A coordinator. Kate is passionate about building communities of care and striving to create safer, anti-oppressive spaces. Living with both visible and invisible disabilities, they navigate complex experiences through art, activism, and community care. Very excited to hear your contributions today, Kate. And finally, Diane, the one that knows exactly how I like my cookies. So I'll give you a real introduction. Diane Wintermute from Citizens with Disabilities Ontario graduated from Queen's University Law School in 1984 and ever since has focused on being human rights, disability, and anti-poverty issues champion. Diane has appeared before all levels of court. That's like the world's best bingo card. Sorry, that wasn't. I'll get back to your bio. All levels of court, including the Supreme Court of Canada and various tribunals. Since retiring in 2022, she's been sitting on the board of CWDO and is a volunteer reader at elementary school. Aww. And Erin, I didn't even introduce you. Did I? You have to tell me if I did. Okay, let's get into that. Erin, I think you introduced yourself a bit, but just as a refresher, Erin is a PhD student in higher education at the Ontario Institute. Yeah, this is right. This is true. Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. That's incredible. Identifying as neurodivergent and working in student affairs where she used her lived experience to guide her practice of supporting students. Phenomenal. With that, you dealt with me. Now you don't have to. I'll hand it off to Chloe for the panel. I'm just going to hold it up.
Thank you for calling for this introduction. So we will proceed to question one. Okay. How would you define academic activism and community-based activism, and which are people similar to and differ from one another? We will go about going starting.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Hi, Zoom. Sorry, who's starting? Oh, no takers. Who's being brave? One of you has to go. It's the law. I'll start. Yes, you're so great.
I'm going to start in a very pragmatic way and then ask my colleagues to theorize around it. I guess for me, when I looked at this question, I thought I've been an activist in both spaces. I have a long history of activism in the community, well, in the context of my life, it's now a short history at the early part of my adult life. And I've been an academic, and most recently an administrator. And I've tried to enact activism.
I'm so sorry, team. They're having issues hearing.
Okay.
So,
Oh, you have to put it closer.
we'll give that a shot.
Can you hear me now?
Is that better?
Is that better? I can hear myself sort of echoey, so I think that is better. Okay. Is that?
Sorry, give it a second. Okay, what we're gonna do, HDMI cord's too short. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, just give us a second to figure this one out.
Is this better?
What might be happening is it's picking up which microphone is active, and so we're gonna have to turn off few to record.
Well, yeah.
So whichever one was the
No,
main
let's
one,
go.
I'm just leaving on and the
All
other
right,
two off.
that's the one I can. I'm good. There, but
That should solve it from my experience.
if you want to try
I'm so
it.
sorry for cheating.
Oh, that was good.
Is it working?
Is that
My
better?
teenage kids like practicing.
Okay, it's still not getting better. If you'll give us just a moment. Microphone. Fascinating.
That was a good suggestion.
That was good.
Yeah, 'cause I'm-
All right.
that's how a lot
I
of
need to
people
hunt
work.
down the tech guy again. So if we could stop the recording, and I'm going to hunt someone down. Yay. Perfect. Wait, I have an idea. Okay. First off, get rid of these. What we're gonna do, we're going to use.
Okay. Okay, this is Esther speaking. And I guess I would say these first couple of questions were hard for me to answer because I think for me, activism is something I'm trying to enact in small ways and sometimes in bigger ways wherever I am. So the academic space for me is my community. It's a community space. They're my friends. I have relationships with people there. The people who are learning there, well, we're all learning from one another there and working together there. And we are embedded within the community that immediately surrounds the built walls of the university. And while lockdown has sort of put some very tangible material walls between what's in and outside of the university, we are one community or multiple communities sort of held together. And the way whatever we do in our own little part of the community impacts everyone else. So the activism that we engage in the university necessarily impacts those who sort of move between inside and outside the walls. Similarly, I would say, I tried for a little bit to think that maybe what we do in academic spaces is we theorize, we use ideas to ask different kinds of questions, we interrupt, we push back, we learn the technologies, and then by stealth and sedition try to change them, to redirect them. But I think that's work that happens in community as well. I think our goals towards justice are similarly oriented and, filled with ambivalences and tensions. So that starts us off. I'll hand it over to one of my brave colleagues now.
Lovely. Who's going? Diane? Perfect. Sorry, we're all about to get really acquainted. I apologize in advance. Ta-da. Lovely. There you are.
Thank you. So my introduction to community activism happened when I was in grade 6. There was a policy at our school that the girls couldn't wear pants. So a friend and I circulated a petition, included the teachers, and were then promptly suspended. However, the teachers took the issue to the school board and the policy was reversed. So that's the happy bit of my introduction. But I continued to be active in educational issues throughout my undergrad and law school and in my legal career. For me, community activism, if I leave here without saying another word, community activism means that the community is the expert. From the ground up, I don't hold myself out to be an expert in anything except legal analysis. The community, either individually or collectively, would come to Arch Disability Law Center, that's where I practiced, and they would inform us of what the issues were that they were facing. From there, we would devise strategies, set out goals and objectives, and sort of what we could do to both mobilize the rest of the community or to move forward in individual instances with systemic litigation, which is a case that appears to affect only one individual, but in its essence will affect many. And I think I'll leave that there for the sort of the definition of community-based activism.
Incredible. Hi, team.
I'd love to join if that's okay.
Sorry, just let me put the laptop down and put the mic up on you.
Sure.
Guys, this feels really funny. Is anyone? I'm laughing.
You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. We've never had a tour stop where there wasn't a problem. Oh, I know. I feel like I'm tethered here. All right, Kate, I'm just gonna hold the mic to the laptop and we'll test it.
Perfect. Thanks. I appreciate that you have made this a hybrid event. So thank you so much for doing that. I have also been involved in both types of activism. And for me, part of the reason that I've decided to pursue community-based activism is often because I feel like academic-based activism is still exclusionary. So community-based activism feels like, and when you were just giving an example of like your first experience of community-based activism, I feel like some of my community-based activism happens in the back of Wheel-Trans buses and with my neighbors and things like that. So I feel like there is quite a big distinction. And for me, it feels like the distinction is a bit around like class and power. Yeah. Thank you. End of thought.
It was a great thought. All right, I think you were? Yeah, sure. Perfect. Let me get settled. Oh, yay, that's a lot easier on the joints.
So it's Jessica here. Similarly to other folks who have spoken, I come from community, and I see this a lot with other people too, is that you think when you get to the academy, this place of extreme liberation and knowledge, like production, it is going to be this magical space where you're going to thrive even more. And that disillusionment when you sort of go through that idea of that it's not going to, there's not a lot of accountability in academic spaces, right? The amount of abuse and harm that happens in an institution, which of course we see that in community-based spaces too, but we can call each other to something different. We can build accountability. You cannot build restorative spaces in a colonial institution that thrives on creating more harm and not having accountability and say different kinds of ways we can respond to harm. So I think it is, you end up trying to build different spaces with those skills that you learned in and with community, and go through a pretty fast disillusionment that there is going to be this, that the space is going to look similar to community, because universities employ all that language, right, around we're a community and, you know, all that kind of care language, which isn't actually steeped in any kinds of different set of relations. It's so I think they differ a lot, and then you end up trying to build something different, built in community against what's happening in academic institutions. Thanks.
Who's going next?
Ooh, freestyle.
Do you want me to move over there?
It's a wheelchair if you're down.
Okay.
If you're down.
Well, I was going to stand.
Is that I just crouch
we'll
in
swap
front
spots.
of you?
There we go. No, we'll swap spots.
What do y'all know about the panel and switcheroo?
Okay, hi, this is Colleen, and just to kind of build off what Kate and Jessica were saying, I think when I read this, I come from a student affairs background, so I was really seeing the kind of activism we do within student affairs, and how that comes up against academia and how challenging that can that can be. And not necessarily academic activism, but working with students to try and advocate and support students in this environment that, as you say, is inherently, extremely challenging to work with or harmful to students, and just trying to navigate that. And I think for me, I really see this, like the tension in between kind of student affairs and supporting students and building these new things, and trying to do that in this institutionalized setting as very challenging. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the, tension between those two things.
Anyone else? Gonna put, okay. We're not gonna, there you go.
Hi, Tanya here. I was just thinking, when I was trying to consider the many questions, one thing that came to mind was NEADS' sense of itself, talking about how it aims to encourage empowerment. And I thought, okay, empowerment, that's about how we organize or collectively respond with each other, to each other, from inside to outside. And I also thought that it's, we're in disability studies or disability activism, we have this tricky situation that we want, to get in somewhere or be present somewhere that hasn't imagined our presence, that hasn't made many plans for disabled students, faculty, or staff. So in this attempt to get in, we are immediately caught in a cultural contradiction of wanting to change the in or get out of what we just got into and make it a different place. And I think that's why that combo of the in and the out that I think disability studies, disability activism invites, is also an invitation to the need to theorize. What does it mean to be part of a world that hasn't really imagined you? And if we don't start to theorize that, we keep on getting in to places that don't want us there, and so little changes. And I maybe on the next go round, I'll say a bit about trying to change the environments and the need to theorize them.
Anyone else? I feel like we were, this was so funny to me. Okay, last one. Okay. Yeah, no, it's not gonna.
Oh, you have to go back.
What if I just go like this?
Yeah.
Look at that, dead on. Oh, my job just got a lot easier. There you go.
Will it work?
Oh yeah, we'll see if it's loud enough. Can you test?
No.
Probably too far from the mic.
No, can't hear.
But for one moment.
Do you want us to pass around?
Oh, guys, that would be incredible. Oh, you guys are the best. My joints, thank you. This is so fun. My laptop's famous.
I'm going behind my head. Oh, don't want to close the screen, sorry. There.
Sorry for the visual.
It's like 3D. This is 3D. I love this. Lovely. Thank you, team. I just want to. Oh, that was phenomenal. It's like a theme park.
Oh. Thank you everyone for such thought-provoking responses. We will move on to question 2. How would your concept to student activity color? What kind of tension is it for folks identifying as such within both academia and the community? Who would like to begin?
Excellent. Here's your mic.
Hi there, Delighted speaking. I think I'll start sort of where Esther started us for the first question. In the practicalities, I think I would conceptualize myself as an activist scholar, as someone who is trying to retool the tools of academia towards world building and the tension that we always come across are the ways that we have to, as we do in all organizations, understand and renegotiate the text is the bureaucracy that enables and constrains our movements, and to do that in solidarity with the communities that we're working with. And I think, as maybe it was Tanya or Esther who was saying, the walls of the economy are permeable. We're always working within our community, even here today, and thinking about each time we invite in our community, we learn something new about the parameters of the university. And so just really practically thinking about how to pay community members, how to get key cards to unlock doors for members. All of these things make up a substantial part of our work, and I think the activist part of that is sharing that knowledge and building networks in these spaces to support each other. And calling attention to, and then shifting the bureaucracy that binds us. Thanks.
I wish the camera could see this one. I just hopped over the wire. It was really impressive. Who's next? You? Oh, you don't want it. You're gonna.
But I was going to help you move the computer.
Okay. Someone's gotta go. Someone's gotta go.
I'll talk about activist scholar.
Give her.
Thanks, comrades on the panel. Tanya speaking. A word on activist scholar, or thinking about activist scholar. At OISE, which is one of the largest buildings, fourth largest building at U of T campus. It has a long history of building disability out. So there's been many signs that say it's accessible, and nobody willing to take down the signs unless a community of people got together and tried to get those signs taken down, because they weren't on accessible doors, they weren't on accessible washrooms. It took a group of students and myself quite some time to convince numerous people that the washrooms with the accessible sign on them were in no way accessible. And then an interesting, does relate to activist scholar. The TTC that's below the building of OISE decided it was going to change the entranceway into OISE from torture chambers, where anybody with a bag, a cane, a baby would get stuck, into the flapping gates. But there was 3 steps, and TTC, the rest of the transit system, OISE, and the city all said they didn't own that land where those 3 little steps were. And it was really fascinating that suddenly settler colonialism disappeared, and nobody owns this land. This land belongs to nobody. That can keep happening again and again and again. That disability is imagined as not present, not really present, only a partial participant. That happens over and over, requires us to really wonder about our conception of being together, about normalcy that keeps on reproducing that. And so even though it has changed, in one way it probably hasn't changed, because we haven't had enough people to realize they have a conception of disability that's very limiting and is limiting our life chances. And that requires community, university relationships to think about inclusion measures as just a starting point and not an end point. So we've got the ramp into OISE now, but we don't have a collective that thinks about who needs to belong there and how that happened. And that's, I think, why we need to tell some of our access stories along the way as an answer to the question of activist scholarship.
You don't want to throw the other panelists down. Oh, perfect. Okay. You guys are such gems. Thank you for your I wish you were all my teachers. Come on, you Ottawa. There you go. Call them out.
So this is Erin. So I would say as a grad student, what's the word? imposter syndrome is real. And so while I would like to say that I conceptualize myself as an activist scholar, that voice of self-doubt creeps in. You're neither an activist nor a scholar. But I think, as a grad student and a new scholar, I think that, the dangers of self-identifying as disabled, can be very real. You want to get a job, you want to, be able to make a difference, but you're, entering a system like what Jessica mentioned, where, productivity is seen as sort of the ultimate marker of your value. And I think that, just identifying, I think, as disabled is a form of activism. Just sort of letting folks know, I'm here and, I'm not the only one. And just sort of putting yourself out there and making it known that disabled people do exist within the institution, even if, folks don't want to see it or don't want to imagine it, as Tanya referenced.
Who's next? Yes, perfect. Okay, lovely. Perfect.
We're just passing it over to you.
Okay.
Lovely, the mic.
Great.
Right.
There you go.
I think I just wanted to build on that idea and maybe Tanya's call for us to tell our access stories. And it's, in the past couple of years, I've spent a lot of time, almost all my time, in administration. And it's been really interesting to me to hear the number of hidden stories of disability. And I would have imagined that many of them come from students. And when I went to a school like the School of Social Work, I felt like every disabled social work student came to see me. And they have 1,500 students. It's a lot of students. But I think what I was surprised about was the number of faculty who came to see me, or TAs, graduate students, staff, and all of them saying, don't tell anybody that I have accommodations. And there is so much activism to be done, not only, I guess, in scholarship, but in administration. Or we need to write about, someone like myself and others in my position would have to write about those stories in a way that respect people's privacy and yet expose, something very difficult in the university. So
I'm running back. Anyone else? You don't have to. Okay. Let's go. Kate, you got anything?
no pressure.
I don't really, I guess when I was a grad student, I felt like an activist scholar, but now I don't really identify with that so much. I graduated from OISE in 2017 and so my activism is more rooted in community right now. But I'm really interested what you said about we need to be writing our stories, because there are so many amazing disabled writers who don't have access to academia, who are writing their stories, but it's not getting maybe the clout or prestige as it would in academia. And I wonder if there's a way to boost people. There's so many people that are not recognized as brilliant because they don't have access to money or accommodations or whatever. Yeah, and I wonder if we can like, maybe we need to do more connecting between scholars and community. I know that there are scholars who also identify as within community, obviously. But I think it would be really interesting to do what kind of we're doing right now on this panel, which is like, how can we connect, how can we connect the activist scholars with the community activists?
Incredible.
There.
Thank you. End it with, I'm going to leave it there just because I know the microphone cut out. Any last takers? One more move. Oh, yeah, I'll hold it. Oh, thank you. If you just want to rest it.
Is it okay here?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, go like this. I'm so sorry. I almost decked you.
Thank you, everyone. We have 15 minutes left together.
Sorry, I just need to switch Alice Q.
Sorry.
Access. Access. Almost. One tour stop, we're gonna get this down. Add spotlight, that's your floor, you get to go. You want allergic?
No.
Check it out. It's so good though.
Thank you, Kylie. Question number 3. How are initiatives from historical and contemporary disability movements being applied to resist evolution and other systems of oppression, prevailing within post-secondary institutions?
Who's going? I'll keep doing this. Oh God. Zoom can see me doing this. One of y'all better go. That's gonna be bad to have on YouTube. All right. Please?
I mean, this is a real, sorry, because I'm not really helping you out here.
What?
It's a really tough question. And I think we're all thinking about it, but it's not something that that I can formulate an answer around. I don't know about the others, but it's, yeah.
Thank you so much. Tanya speaking. I've had a tough time with the term ableism, even though I'm comrades with Dan Goodley and on grants and write with Dan Goodley. It just seems like the entire university is set up on the basis of an unquestioned ableism. So how do you question its ableism? I felt a little bit more successful with the question of disableism. And then lately, the idea of like pro-disability. And I've been able to move a little bit better with the idea of a pro-disability environment as opposed to pointing out ableism. Because it could be we spend all of our existence in academic life pointing out the ableism, which it seems to thrive on, and like either it's thriving on ableism or making money from disableism. So I think I'm moving towards a pro-disability position.
Can Can I go?
Absolutely, you can.
Yeah, I love that, Tanya. I think within community and specifically around a lot of the education I'm doing with community, we talk about disability as a human experience because everyone is going to become disabled. So how do we make disability more of, how do we make it more pro-disability? Because in fact, this is a human experience. And acknowledging it as a human experience rather than as something those people over there experience or as a poor health outcome in quotes. Yeah, I love this pro disability and human experience way of talking about disability.
We're back at it. Yes.
It's Jessica here. I guess what came up for me was thinking about ways that folks targeted or marginalized within the institution are creating spaces of care, especially around like mutual aid. And so really seeing that, or around, I was thinking of like collective note-taking, right? So just like the amount of ways that we can do that through Google Docs and things like that. And so ways that resistance, so Ronaldo Walcott, who used to be here at U of T now, I think is University of Buffalo, talks about the institution as a space of labor, a space of oppression, and a space of resistance. And I think that space of resistance is that mutual aid. We're seeing that, which is so against what all of academia stands for, right? Scarcity, urgency, competition. And I just love this, I don't know which generation, Gen Z, what it is, that is, mutual aid is just natural because of the austerity that you've grown up under. And so I think for me to see our student union at York University engaged in mutual aid around food, they're the ones doing it while the university is jacking up food prices and changing to another transnational conglomerate, which jacked up the prices for food on campus for students and everyone during the pandemic. And the response to that is care and mutual aid. And so for me, I think that's what came up, is that there is this shift of, the larger shift around we take care of each other. And because, I think that is the only response that can happen against an institution that's inflicting so much harm. So when those spaces are so beautiful and precious, and I think it was Esther that said around tenderness, around stories, tenderness around all of those spaces too, where folks are doing that care work. So that's what came up for me.
I love that. Gen Z approved.
Yeah.
Okay, Gen Z. Field trip. Hi, Zoom friends. Coming back for you. Thank you so much.
Love it.
Thank you, everyone. We will move to question 4. What should academia learn from community-based disability movement to further generate accessible and inclusive services for disabled persons with diverse and intersectional lived experiences.
Oh, they can see it again on Zoom. I don't want them catching me doing this.
All right. Yes, Diane, you're my savior. Can I say that?
So I mentioned earlier that I've worked for Arch Disability Law Center, and prior to that, East Toronto Community Legal Services. Both of those are clinics East Toronto Legal Services was a clinic that was geographically based, and Arch was issue-based, so on disability. I also mentioned that community-based work can come from a single person or a collective group. And so I just want to share a couple of instances of community-based activism and how Arch was able to support the people coming forward. So the first was a case of a student at York University who wanted to challenge the policy that required her to disclose her mental health diagnosis in order to get accommodations from the university. And she didn't think that that was an appropriate way to access accommodations. What does knowing the diagnosis actually mean in terms of what her accommodation needs were? So she launched a human rights complaint, and we were able to do two things on her behalf. We represented her, but we were able to get the Ontario Human Rights Commission involved to look at this from across Ontario perspective and how students with disabilities across Ontario would be affected by a policy like this. And they were able to bring that huge experience that they have to the table, and we negotiated the settlement with York University. The other came from a sort of collective group experience where we were contacted by Students for Barrier-Free Access at U of T. And the issue that was confronting them was a university policy that was a mandatory leave of absence policy. And Students for Barrier-Free Access drove that campaign, but we were able to provide legal assistance and research. We started a letter writing campaign. We were contacted by the Toronto Star, and we made sure that SBA was involved in the news article. And again, we contacted the Ontario Human Rights Commission, who had a huge impact on how that issue was handled. So I think looking at the community perspective from the ground up really helps institutions to understand the power of collective action. And I think I'll just stop there.
Thank you, Diane. It's Eliza speaking. I will start a little bit with maybe an idea of how I might conceptualize social justice, and then thinking about how that might relate to access to education, which ties back to things that I've learned from community-based movements. So if I think, as I do, of social justice being a collective project of identifying the structures that maintain the current normative order, and thinking about how we can dismantle or reframe or refocus these structures to allow for different kinds of participation and possibility. We can think about that. We can apply sort of the thinking about access to education intersectionally. So when we think about who's excluded from the academy, we need to do so by thinking about how the question of access always exists at the nexus of power and privilege. So some folks are understood as deserving of access into the university, and maybe they have a lot of money and they feel like they can buy their way into the university. Maybe they feel like they've had privilege that has been taken from them by disability, and they can mobilize other sites of privilege to access the university. But that doesn't change the architecture of the university, and it certainly doesn't allow for others to gain access. And I acknowledge the university may not be a place where everyone wants access, but I believe everyone should have the right to access it. So I think what I've learned from community-based work is that we can't think about something like access to education or the university through only a disability activist perspective, because we'll be creating barriers at the same time that we're eliminating them. And so if I think of a program like TMU's Sanctuary Scholars Program, which allows for stateless, non-status students to enter into the university without having their status asked or questioned, allows them to pay domestic fees instead of international fees, and access to education in a complete way. I mean, that's as much a disability justice project as anything else, right? And it shows us that things like asking for your status before applying for a co-op program is a barrier that affects disabled, debilitated, sick, injured folks. So I think in sum I would just say it really needs to be a collective project, and I think community-based movements have shown us how much more vibrant and robust disability activism can be when we're in solidarity with others who are in our midst. Thanks.
You want to get it back to you? Yeah, thank you. One more time. One more time. Daniel's best. Your neat stuff now.
Thank you. This is such a brilliant discussion, and I would be so keen to continue, but I'm very much full of time, and we're at a second break. I just want to take a moment to thank each panelist for your capacity and your time, not only partaking in this panel, but for everything you do in academia and the community. So thank you.
We breaking. Lovely. Thank you so much for your flexibility, panelists. I cannot stress that one enough. One last time for the road, right? Official languages. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you ate several sandwiches and even more cookies. Did we enjoy the lunch? Yeah, thank you. Did we enjoy the panel? That was very professional. We were all like, yes. Anyways, I'm giving it off to Chloe to introduce our panel section of the event.
Oh yeah. Welcome back, everyone. We will now shift to the presentation section of the event. We will learn from two organizations who are either engaged within post-secondary education or the community. So first off, we will welcome Erin, who was part of the panel. She will be presenting on behalf of students. superior free access at the University of Toronto. So the SBA was created in 2002 to address the systemic barriers experienced by disabled students. It proposes that collaborates with campus and community partners to offer educational with social effect and advocacy services. The presentation will provide an overview of the ways in which advocacy and student voice have shaped the development of the organization since its inception. And then we will welcome Julie and Esther who will present on behalf of citizens with disabilities Ontario. CWTO actively promotes the rights, freedom, and responsibility of persons with disability through community organization, community development, social action, and members support and referral. Its primary activity is public education and awareness about the social and physical barriers that prevent the full inclusion of persons with disabilities in Ontario. Welcome, Erin.
Woo! Yeah. Oh no, I can't get the mic on. No. Haven't we seen enough? Haven't we been through enough? This is such a bad problem to have.
I can just hold
How else does it even? Yeah, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Chloe.
It's where you live.
Okay.
So hello and welcome back from break, everybody. This is Erin again.
sorry, is my computer being?
Can I drive the slides?
Oh, we have to do it here.
Okay.
Do you have slides?
Yes. Sorry, I'll have to download those.
It's okay. I don't need to use them either.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Oh, there is like, okay, I'll just, oh, okay. It's like, sorry, folks. This is actually my fault because I sent the slides really late.
Thanks. I'm just taking it up here. I'm like, no, it's me. Oh, cute. Oh, those graphics are nice. I see why we want these. Okay, SBA read only. Cheeky. Yeah, we can share on the screen. Ali, I'm going to cut you off screen sharing. Done. Anarchy. Okay, share. Lovely. Almost there. Y'all just saw my grocery list? Okay. Lovely. Here's so you can, right, because we're screen sharing. This is just how we're gonna do it. Okay, from start, we can, oh. Hello? I can't take this right now. Well, that's it, folks. Oh my, this is terrifying. Y'all can't even see what's going on, but it is. I got the beach ball of death.
I can
fix it.
Jessica run out to find the tech guy, so.
See, there's like a difference there. We just want to end the show and just play it as a full screen.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. They can see it. We can see it. We got ASL. Oh. Okay. We've got ASL. We're going to hide non-view. And we've got captions. All right. It's the best I can do. Is that okay?
Yep. Okay, let's try this again. Hello, everyone. It's Erin speaking again. So this presentation will focus on the history of Students for Barrier-Free Access, or SBA, and how activism and student voice have shaped our organization over the years. During this presentation, I will present an overview of SBA and an overarching timeline of the organization's history, including major campaigns and current offerings. The SBA Center reopened this year after a long hiatus due to COVID-19. We're so excited to be back in full swing. So my name is Erin Anderson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the chair of SBA's board of directors. I'm also a PhD student at OISE here at the University of Toronto. On the slide is a QR code to sign up to receive the SBA monthly newsletter if you want to keep updated on our programming, as well as events on campus and in the community. You'll also find the QR code over there on that back shelf or sort of middle side shelf if you are interested. Okay, so a little bit about SBA. We are a nonprofit student group on campus that represents disabled and MAD identified students at the University of Toronto. As noted in the presentation abstract, Students for Barrier-Free Access, SBA, was created in 2002 at the University of Toronto to address the systemic barriers experienced by disabled students. Funded through student levies at the undergraduate and graduate level, SBA is governed by a board of directors with majority student and alumni representation. The organization aims to provide a social space where disabled students and allies can engage, network, and promote accessibility and inclusion across all three of the university's campuses. The SBA Center, previously the University of Toronto Access Center, launched in 2004 and now boasts an adaptive technology and resource center featuring accessible workstations and software, a resource library, lounge space, and study room. The SBA board and staff collaborate with campus and community partners to offer educational workshops, social events, and advocacy services. This presentation will provide an overview of the ways in which advocacy and student voice have shaped the development of the organization since its inception. Okay, so this is the slide that I needed to have the PowerPoint for. So on the screen is an image of a linear timeline that highlights some of the key moments in SBA's past. So as I mentioned previously, SBA was established in 2002, and in 2004, the U of T Access Center opened. In 2007, through the UTSU Levy campaign, SBA was able to successfully transition from a club to an incorporated nonprofit student group, providing the opportunity for self-governance, hiring a paid staff person, and taking a more active role on campus issues impacting disabled students. In 2015, a referendum was passed to make SBA a UTGSU levy group, which allowed us to hire a second staff member. And she's still here, coming up on 10 years. Nadia is the heart and soul of SBA, as well as our knowledge keeper. I wish she could be here today, but she graciously helped me with the content for this presentation. The same board that hired Nadia made an intentional shift in priorities, from being focused primarily on physical accessibility to a broader focus that includes those who are neurodiverse or have another hidden disability. There was also a board-driven shift toward a more political approach that goes beyond awareness. SBA started demanding a seat at the table on policy developments that impact disabled students. In 2017, SBA sat at the table during consultations for U of T's first sexual violence policy, as well as campaigning to abolish the university's new mandated leave of absence policy. In 2018, SBA and other student organizations across Ontario were faced with the fear of losing funding through Doug Ford's Student Choice Initiative. 2020 saw a disruption of services due to the pandemic, and SBA partnered with OPIRG, the Ontario Public Interest Research Group, to provide food relief and also offered virtual programming. Programming remained mostly online until this past May, when we started opening back up for drop-in hours. So now I'm just going to give you a little bit more details about some of the various campaigns that we have run. So one of the major campaigns in the early days of SBA were the Great Barrier Hunt. So these are accessibility audits of the University of Toronto's campuses, including its associated colleges. SBA's consultation on the anti-sexual violence policy came through contacting the Office of the VP students to advocate for the policy to consider the needs of students with disabilities, many of whom may have first-hand experience with sexual violence. This was made possible due to having the resources and expertise to undertake the work and demand student consultation. When the university did hold feedback sessions for survivors during the initial policy consultation, there was nothing in the way of crisis support present, and the location was only shared the night before, making it inaccessible for wheel-trans users. SBA also provided expertise on the need for trauma-informed practices, such as reimagining who might be a bystander or even one of the people delivering the training. Bless you. So SBA held their own confidential feedback sessions and submitted the anonymized feedback to the university. This was one of the first big conversations SBA was involved with. Later that year, the university enacted another policy. At the time, it was called the Mandated Leave of Absence Policy, which Diane mentioned, and we got a name drop, so now we get to name drop Arch as well. Essentially, students deemed at risk of harming themselves or others were invited to take a voluntary leave, and if they didn't, they could be mandated to. And this was framed as a suicide prevention measure. Anyone whom they applied the policy to would require psychiatric clearance to return. Not to mention that psychiatry has a long history of racism, homophobia, transphobia, Satanism, etc. Who is assessing for this risk or preemptive judgment of risk? University administrators. SBA connected with other groups across Canada, including NEADS. SBA worked with Arch Disability Law Centre and the Ontario Human Rights Commission, who eventually ordered U of T to address the concerns. The policy was revised just enough that the OHRC could no longer intervene. Interestingly, the university has since renamed the policy the Supportive Leaves Policy, but little else has changed. At one point, The University of Toronto Students' Union endorsed the policy in the varsity. SBA wrote an op-ed in response, but the varsity wouldn't publish it, so it was eventually published in the Strand. With the 2019-2020 Student Choice Initiative, levy groups were at risk of losing significant portions of their funding. While legal battles were fought by student unions and the Canadian Federation of Students, SBA came together with other groups on campus to strategize how to demonstrate that the services we provide are essential. SBA was advised to start looking for alternative funding sources, such as grants and fundraising. For example, CUPE 3902 donated $400 a month to SBA while funding was at risk. At the same time, SBA and many other student groups had to push back and demonstrate how they are an essential service. Our adaptive computer lab that is available to anyone from the UFT community is one example of that. Even today, UTSU still runs defund campaigns every few years that seem to target the more political groups, but through regular collaboration with them, it makes us harder to dismiss. So these are just some of the collaborators that we have worked with over the years. I realize there's a lot of acronyms here. So APIS is the Association of Part-Time University Students. We recently just partnered with the Blackwood Gallery at the Quiet Parade that happened at the University of Toronto, Mississauga this past Wednesday. We also partner with the Centre for Global Disability Studies, which is the University of Toronto, Scarborough, Downtown Legal Services, LGBT Out, NEADS, of course, the OISE BIPOC Thesis Group, OPERG, and the University of Toronto Accessibility Awareness Club, or UTAC. The SBA Centre is an amazing place to be, and I would encourage all of you to come check it out sometime if you're in the area. So we're in the Student Commons building, which is at 230 College Street. We always have coffee, tea, and snacks on hand. We also have a wealth of craft supplies, board games. We have a resource library, an adaptive computer lab that was made possible through grant funding. We also have a bookable study/meeting/nap room. So that's a rare gem on campus. So if you ever need a nap, drop on by and see us. Okay, so I'm now going to jump over to some of our programming, and our programming coordinator, Chris, is here, and they've really made all of this possible, and we're really excited about some of the programming we're going to be running this year. So in addition to our advocacy work, we run educational and social programming. In the words of Nadia, it is always political to create space for students with disabilities. Some examples of programming we've offered and hope to offer again in the future are games nights, book club, ASL club, and ASL class, which alternates between a lesson and a social, so people can put their new skills into practice. We also have crafternoons, and in the past have had $5 lunches at Hart House. Throughout the year, we will be holding board drop-in hours and hosting a series of workshops on topics like disability justice, disability and sexuality, and navigating post-secondary. As well, we hope to relaunch our volunteer program in the near future. Advocacy can be heavy work, and it's been important for us as an organization to engage in community care activities to sustain our energy and keep up morale during periods of exhaustion. Ways we've done this are making care kits, hosting film discussions and viewing parties of disabled comedians on YouTube. Ultimately, though, campaigns have given SBA legitimacy. How silly does it look for a group to try to defund the only organization on campus supporting disabled students? At the end of the day, our members trust us to represent them, and our agenda has been, and always will be member-driven. Thank you.
Mic drop. You could drop the mic for all I care. After that, it's it. Just drop that mic. Oh my God, love it. Let's give it up again for Erin while CWDO makes its way over. Beauty. Don't tell me y'all have slept. Sorry, Julie and Heather, if y'all want to get up here for your presentation. Lovely. Thanks for making your way up here, team. And Aaliyah, you could just screen share those OG slides. Got our captioning going. I'll be back to help in a second. Lovely. So, your call. So we have a room view that's angled to like get you right there, and we can have Julie at the podium. Would that be good? Or would you prefer to be together on one screen? We can sit at the table if you prefer.
Jim, how do you feel? You want to stand up or sit down?
Sit? Yeah, let's do it.
I think the table is better. Thanks.
Perfect. And there's a chair right there, and I'll just have to move the laptop again. Hold the mic. All right. Perfect. Just want to shuffle a bit closer to Heather, please. Lovely. You look great. The slides are okay there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're just there for fun. Okay, lovely. One mic. Basically, this is your main sound output, so just make sure that you're going to be close-ish.
Yeah.
Don't go in a lot.
Let us know if we need to make adjustments.
Well, thank you so much. Really excited for this. Okay, I'm getting out of your way.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we're just using that one.
Looks incredible.
Okay, that's great. All right, thank you everyone for having us. Julie and I are here representing Citizens with Disabilities Ontario, otherwise known as CWDO. So CWDO is a nonprofit organization across disability provincial disability organization that was incorporated in 2005 as a nonprofit. And we are committed to the rights of persons to participate fully in civil, cultural, economic, political, and social life of their communities. CWDO actively promotes rights and freedoms and responsibilities of persons with disabilities through community development, social action, member support, and referral. We provide public education and awareness about the social and physical barriers that prevent the full inclusion of persons with disabilities in Ontario. Our board members are from across Ontario and are governed by CWDO's bylaw and has an established code of ethics and operating protocols. We connect primarily with our members through our website and our newsletter. And we have actually, we'll bring it over afterwards. We do have just a one-sheeter with a QR code if people are interested in accessing, signing up for the newsletter. And members contribute to CWDO's position papers, presentations.
I'm so sorry, just slow down a bit. It's so nice not being pulled down myself for once.
That's okay. Members contribute to CWDO's position papers, presentations, research, advocacy work, and on our website. But I think the other thing that I want to tell you about us is that we are both also located at Toronto Metropolitan University. My role is Accessibility Coordinator in the Office of the Vice President, Equity and Community Inclusion. I'm not the accommodation people. My role is from an equity lens, making sure the university is compliant with AODA. And we all know that compliance with AODA doesn't necessarily get us to equity or equal access. Currently, we're hoping that the education standard will help advance that. But so certainly, my role is about going far beyond AODA and addressing accessibility from a systemic perspective. And I'll let Julie introduce herself and tell her a little more about her access story.
Thank you, Heather. Hi, my name is Julie. As Heather mentioned, I am a student at Toronto Metropolitan University. I am currently in my 4th year studying social work, and I am minoring in disability studies. I am also a board member on CWDO. So receiving a diagnosis of a mild learning disability was a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, I was able to access accommodations and additional support. However, the diagnosis led to assumptions about my abilities, such as when I was in high school, I was encouraged to enroll into a vocational program, but because I knew what I was capable of, instead I took my own path and enrolled into Humber College. I graduated with social service worker diploma with honors. I applied to 4 universities, got into all 4, and as I mentioned, I'm in my last year at Toronto Metropolitan, and I'm currently in the process of applying for my master's for social work, hopefully fall of 2025. Sorry. Historically, academia has strongly been centered around the one-size-fits-all approach. This creates attitudinal and systemic barriers for our educators towards disabled students. For example, I earned an A in one of my assignments in college. However, when I got my paper back, the professor said, "Good job, who helped you?" Not only is this dismissive of my hard work I put into my essay, but it also made me feel like I always have to prove my intelligence. However, in contrast, another professor took an approach where documentation of accommodations were not required. They understood that all students benefit from some wiggle room without having to disclose why. It is important for educators to acknowledge that students learn in different ways. Another story is in one of my classes, I kept getting C's on my quizzes. However, I asked the professor if for the last quiz I could write an essay, because I felt like that was my strong suit, and I ended up getting an A. This example shows that students can achieve their full potential when they are given the flexibility to demonstrate their own knowledge in ways that are best suited for them. Finding community at TMU really helped me academically, professionally, and socially. At TMU, I am on the community student engagement group for accessibility. Joining this group has allowed me to engage with other disabled students and staff, and also non-disabled students. So in our group, we're working towards making the university more inclusive and accessible. It has also been a great avenue for students to provide peer support. The connections made within the group have opened a world of opportunities for me. For example, I participated in a student-run body positivity fashion show last year, where I was able to represent my disabled body as one that is fashionable and beautiful. My passion for advocating for disabled students led me to working at the Toronto Metropolitan Students' Union as the Access Lead. In my role at the Students' Union, I initiated a support group and also a resource list for students. That was something I was very passionate about doing. Individual advocacy and participating in group advocacy all have allowed me to become involved. For example, becoming a CWDO board member, where I have another space to be involved in the disability community. The fact that I encounter so many barriers fuels me to put myself out there and say yes when the opportunity presents itself. Thank you.
Can I just get a time check? How much time do we have left?
So much.
So much?
I actually don't know when you're supposed to end. Probably 10 minutes.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Okay. So I think I just wanted to return back to a theme, I think, that emerging. First of all, two more things about myself that I did not mention. One, I'm a graduate of TMU's School of Disability Studies. At the time, I had no idea I was going to return to the university as the accessibility coordinator. And also I'm the vice president of the board of CWDO. So in the panel, there was lots of discussion about the importance of community and connection, and how do we connect academia to community. And we are really trying to pay attention to that. At TMU, I know the School of Disability Studies does. Because I'm a graduate of the school, I have, an automatic connection with them. And with CWDO, we have had opportunities, well, Julie is a good example, bringing her onto the board as a student. And she mentioned our community student engagement group for accessibility. So that's something that I started in 2015, because I couldn't, it was so hard to connect with the disabled students. They register with our accommodation, center, but they don't give that information to me. So unless I come across a student and, talk to them and get them involved, it's really hard. But one thing that just came up naturally when we did have our first student engagement group, we said, okay, what are some things that we want to do? And we created an access tour. So that's actually how I met Julie, and I actually met Logan that way as well.
where I could show students with mobility disabilities in particular how to navigate the university in the most accessible way possible. So showing them how the buildings connect, showing them where the good accessible washrooms are, showing them about, Wheel-Trans, that kind of thing. And that has allowed me to meet students one-on-one initially, and then I can tell them about our student engagement group. But the connection with CWDO, there's another alumni as well that's from TMU that is on our CWDO's board. And so that connection, and it's not just with TMU, CWDO has now for several years had students from Pro Bono Canada, law students, do position papers for us and research papers. And that's been a really good connection. We have another board member who's connected with McMaster and has brought some projects that they are working on to us, and we have supported those. Currently, I am partnering with the School of Disability Studies on a project around accessible healthcare. And TMU has the School of Disability Studies is taking the lead on that, and CWDO wrote a letter of support for it, and also has a member sitting on the advisory committee for that project. So these are just some of the ways that we are, that TMU is reaching to community and CWDO is reaching out beyond to the community. So I just wanted to make those connections. But I wanted to leave some time if anyone has any questions, and I don't know if SBA had a chance to entertain any questions at all, but maybe if folks had questions for either of us, as we have time. Yeah, if you want to come up with us.
Est-ce que vous pouvez venir avec nous?
Oh, if you do have a question, I'll have to run the mic to
Si
you.
vous avez une question,
Running in arthritis, I know, they're so good together.
nous allons vous donner un
The other thing
microphone.
about CSEGA, which is our community student engagement group for accessibility. So I started a student engagement group originally.
Nous avons
with just me and a few
commencé
students. And then and that changed every year. Students come and go. And then a few years later, I
un
was at
groupe
an event where
d'engagement
students
pour
were
nos
and two
étudiants.
non-disabled students who ran student societies
Et
approached me and
quelques
said,
années
how
plus
can we
tard,
make sure our student society is accessible and inclusive for
les
students with
étudiants
disabilities? So I
qui
thought,
sont
okay, here's an opportunity to get the student engagement thing going again. And I met with them, and they are a formal student society, and they have a faculty liaison person who came with them. And she's been a huge champion. And we started CSEGA with the idea of not just disabled students working alone, but working alongside non-disabled students, staff, and faculty. So it's a small group, but it's making that connection so that it's not, first of all, it's not them and us, and we're working together. And also they provide me, I have a liaison position with when I'm dealing with our facilities people around physical changes, or with our Universal Design for Learning working group. They give me feedback in that way as well. So again, around connections and community. Okay, anybody else?
I have a question. Yeah. Is this my camera? Okay, anyways. First off, thank you both so much. I mean, all of you, both as in both organizations, but the work SBA and CWDO do just drew us so much to be in Toronto. It called us to be with this community because the work you do is just phenomenal. So it's so cool to oh my God, I'm freaking out a little. Anyways, we did have a student who went to TMU and who kind of had to drop out of TMU because of inaccessibility, really difficult situation accessing their accommodations, being told you're too successful for your accommodations, which I know. And we know that's not the institutional policy, but I find a lot of the time when we're working within oppressive spaces, I'd say, how do you, as an individual, balance both kind of representing what can be perceived as a bit more of an ableist oppressive institution and being traditional academia, and also doing that activism within that space? Because it's got to be hard to balance, and I know you do it so well.
Okay, that's a really great question. So two key things. I Again, I have them up at on the other counter over there. So when I started working at TMU, I wanted to create a communication plan because I knew that communication is like a key way to get the message out, to advocate. And so I was working alongside a communication person. My position was originally in human resources. And then a couple of years later, TMU hired an EDI lead, and my position was appropriately put under an equity lens. And so there was a communication person. So I was talking with her about, okay, how do I go about this communication plan? She challenged me to think about, okay, what are your key messages? And so every few days I'd think about a new one. Okay, I have a new one, and we talk about it and write it out. And what started to emerge was something that was far more than key messages. It became a list of principles and values that underpin the work that I do and how I do it. So things like, from the very basic accessibility at the start, right? Get it right in the first place so you don't have to fix it later, to intersectionality and understanding disability and accessibility from an intersectional lens, to understanding accommodation and accessibility as separate approaches. And that's probably been one of the most important ones that have helped people to understand the work that I do. So I say that accommodation is what you do when you don't have accessibility or when accessibility is not enough. It's not that one is bad and one is good. They're two sides of the same coin with the same goal in mind, and there's a relationship between the two. The more accessibility you have, the less individual accommodation you require. So these principles and values have been so important. They've been a really good tool to get things across. So, and then the other thing is our website. So we are very fortunate to have an accessibility IT specialist at the university. And we have the website to start with, but we had the AODA training that was created. It was very basic customer service. And so we've since redone all of that, and we have community resources, so what's available at the university in terms of support, but also lots of different guides about how people can be more accessible in their own practice. And so, for example, there's a page on challenging ableism. There's a page on how to create accessible content, teaching and learning. So our slogan is accessibility in the classroom, accessibility in the workplace, accessibility on campus, and so our resources are sort of arranged around that way. So those two things have been really helpful to advance accessibility and community as well.
Thank you, that was, any other questions? I got so many, don't make me do this. You sure? It's totally not a threat. Okay.
I feel like TMU is killing it.
Yeah.
Let's go TMU.
Oh,
Disability studies.
I always think that SBA is like, we got to live up to them.
Oh wow, that's really sweet, but I think we do.
Well, see, what we need to do is, we're neighbors, we need to collaborate as well.
Absolutely.
I'm actually part of, speaking of, I'm assuming you know who Ben Pito is?
Yeah.
So I'm part of a community of practice that we formed around people that are responsible for AODA and accessibility as opposed to the accommodation piece at universities. And we share a lot of ideas and strategies around things. But really trying to, break that barrier between administration and students and faculty. You're right, like the connection with disability studies is really important. The connection to disabled students is really important.
For balance, I have a question for you guys. Okay, I do. Okay, hi, I'm Carly. I'm our partnerships director at NEADS, and one of my favorite parts of the job is working with on-campus disabled student groups, and I think SBA was one of the first ones I actually got to work with. And you guys have been so consistent and so passionate, and something I find working with student groups is that because for students, there's going to inherently be turnover. But you seem to handle it so well, you keep that momentum going, so I just want to know how you do it. Tell us your secrets. Share those tips.
It's a great question.
Yes, I know.
From the emails. Sorry, I'll get the. This is Erin and CJ. So I will start, but Chris, feel free to jump in.
And I would say that, as I mentioned in my presentation, the transition from being a club to a recognized student group, a nonprofit, funded through student levies, has really allowed us to do the work that we do. We now have 4 permanent staff. So we have a campaigns coordinator, an admin coordinator, programming, and also finance. And so I feel like it's the staff who really, they put so much into their work and to keeping the organization going. When I first joined the board in 2023, it was definitely not as active as it had been in the past. And I think that is sort of an inherent challenge when you are a student group. And so, yeah, it's just how can we grow our board? We're going to be doing some strategic planning this fall and also engaging with our members to see, how we can better support them, where the gaps are, where the barriers might be that they're still facing. And being member driven and really responding to their needs. Do you want to go, Paul?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add that you haven't already spoke to. I think we really owe it to Erin because our board was a little bit low capacity last year, and that's totally fair. We're all going through major transitions, but I think Erin really throws herself into everything that she's really passionate about. So a lot of our resurfacing, if you will, has been attributed to Erin's let's go kind of spirit that she puts forward. So yeah.
So sweet. Okay, we should, in theory, take a break, but last call for questions. You can ask them anything. Probably you shouldn't ask them anything, but you know what I mean. No? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I'll make sure Zoom can see this too. We're going on another break, but I see a lot of bagged lunches, and I'm very desperate, and I need you to eat them all, please. This will get worse. If you come back from the break and there's still bags, you're going right back in that hall. All right, break time.